Okay. Chronicles of Narnia, Magician's Nephew. Book 1. Let's see here. We got Chapter 3. Chapter 3. The Wood Between the Worlds. Uncle Andrew in his study vanished instantly, and then, for a moment, everything became muddled. The next thing Diggory knew was that there was a soft green light coming down on him from above, a darkness below. And darkness below. He didn't seem to be standing on anything, or sitting, or lying. Nothing appeared to be touching him. "I believe I'm in water," said Diggory, "or underwater." This frightened him for a second, but almost at once he could feel that he was rushing upwards. Then his head suddenly came out into the air, and he found himself scrambling ashore, out onto a smooth, grassy ground at the edge of a pool. As as he rose to his feet, he noticed that he was neither dripping nor panting for breath, as anyone would expect after being under water. His clothes were perfectly dry, and he was standing by the edge of a small pool, no more than 10 feet from side to side, in a wood. The trees grew close together. They were so leafy that he could get no glimpse of the sky. All the light was green. All the light was green light that came through the leaves. But this must have been a very strong sun overhead, for this green daylight was bright and warm. It was the quietest wood you could possibly imagine. There were no birds or insects, no animals, and no wind. You could almost feel the trees growing. The pool that he had just got out of was not the only pool. There were dozens of others, a pool for every few yards as far as the eye could reach. You could almost feel the trees drinking the water up with their roots. This wood was very much alive. When he tried to describe it afterwards, Diggory always said, "It was a rich place, as rich as plum cake." The strangest thing was that, almost before he had looked out about him, Diggory had almost forgotten how he had gotten there. Oh, that doesn't sound right. The strange thing was that, almost before he had looked about him, Diggory had half forgotten how he had come there. At any rate, he was certainly not thinking about Polly, or Uncle Andrew, or even his mother. He was not the least frightened, or excited, or curious. If anyone had asked him, "Where did you come from?" he would have probably said that he had always been there. That's what it had felt like, as if one had always been in that place and never been bored, although nothing ever really happened. As he had said long afterwards, it was not the sort of place where things happen. The trees go on growing, and that's all. After Diggory had looked at the wood for a long time, he had noticed that there was a girl lying on her back at the foot of a tree a few yards away. Her eyes were nearly shut, but not quite, as if she had just been sleeping and waking. So he looked at her for a long time and said nothing. At last she opened her eyes and looked at him for a long time, and she also said nothing. Then, as she spoke in a dreamy, contented sort of voice, "I think I've seen you before," she said. "Well, I rather think so too," said Diggory. "Have you been here long?" "Oh, always," said the girl. "At least, I don't know, a very long time." That's a little bit older. Maybe scale her back. I don't know. "So have I," so have I, said Diggory. "No, you haven't," said she. "I've just seen you come up out of that pool." "Yeah, suppose I did." "That'll work. I can deal with an older one. Might be easier to see." Whatever, said Diggory with a puzzled air. "I'd forgotten." Then, for quite a long time, neither of them said any more. "Look here," said the girl, presently. "I wonder, did we ever really meet before? Well, I have this sort of idea that I sort of picture in my head of a boy and a girl just like us, living somewhere quite different, and doing all sorts of things. Perhaps it was only a dream." "Well, I had the same dream, I think," said Diggory, "about a boy and a girl living next door, and something about crawling among the rafters. I remember the girl had a dirty face." "Aren't you getting it mixed up? In my dream, it was the boy who had the dirty face." "Well, I can't remember the boy's face," said Diggory, and then added, "Hullo, what's that?" "Why, it's a guinea pig," said the girl, and it was quite a fat little guinea pig nosing about in the grass. But round the middle of the guinea pig ran a tape, and tied to it by the tape was a bright yellow ring. "Look, look!" cried Diggory. "The ring! And look, you've got one on your finger. And so have I." I don't know where he was going with that, but the girl now sat up, really interested at last. They started. Maybe take that out of my mouth. There we go. It's not even in whatever piercings. They make your mouth talk funny. The girl now sat up, really interested at last, and they stared very hard at one another, trying to remember, and then exactly at the same moment they shouted out, "Mr. and Mrs. Ketterly," and then shouted, and "Mr. Ketterly," and then he shouted out, "Uncle Andrew," and they knew who they were, and began remembering the whole story. After a few minutes hard talking, they had got it straight. Diggory explained how beastly Uncle Andrew had been. "What do we do now?" said Polly. "Take the guinea pig and go home?" "Well, there's no hurry," said Diggory, with a huge yawn. "I think there is," said Polly. "This place is too quiet. It's so dreamy. You're almost asleep. If we've once to give in, we shall just lie down and doze here for ever and ever." "Oh, it is very nice here," said Diggory. "Yes, it is," said Polly. "But we've got to get back." She stood up and began to go cautiously towards the guinea pig. But then she changed her mind. "Well, we might as well leave the guinea pig," she said. "It's perfectly happy here, and your uncle will only do something horrid to it if we take it back home." "I bet he would," answered Diggory. "Look at the way he's treated us. By the way, how do we get home?" "We'll go back into the pool, I expect." They came and stood together at the edge, looking down into the smooth water. It was full of the reflection of green and leafy branches. They made it look very deep. "We haven't any bathing things," said Polly. "Well, we shan't need them, silly," said Diggory. "We're going in with our clothes on. Don't you remember? It didn't get us wet on the way up." "Well, can you swim?" "Well, a bit. Can you?" "Well, not that much." "Well, I don't think we shall need to swim," said Diggory. "We want to go down, don't we?" Well, neither of them much liked the idea of jumping into the pool. But neither said so to the other. They took their hands and said, "1, 2, 3, go," and jumped. There was a great splash, and of course they closed their eyes, but when they opened them again they found that they were still standing hand in hand in the green wood, and hardly up to their ankles in water. The pool, apparently only a couple of a couple of inches deep. They splashed back onto the dry ground. "What on earth is going wrong?" said Polly in a frightened voice, but not quite so frightened as you might expect, because it's hard to feel really frightened in that wood. The place is too peaceful. "Why, no. Oh, I know," said Diggory. "Of course it won't work. We're still wearing our yellow rings. They're for the outward journey, you know. The green rings take you home. We must change rings. Have you got pockets? Good.